Good morning, everyone. Let's start with a truth that's both liberating and terrifying. Relationships, whether romantic, platonic, or professional, aren't meant to be prisons. Yet so many of us cling to them, even when they no longer serve our well-being. Why? Because letting go feels like failure. Today, I want to explore how loving yourself enough to let someone go can be the ultimate act of courage, vulnerability, and self-respect. Letting go is one of the hardest things we can do, not because we're weak, but because it requires us to confront vulnerability head-on. Our natural instinct is to hold on to relationships, people, or situations that feel familiar even when they no longer serve us. We hold on because we fear the unknown, because the idea of being without them feels like a void we can't bear. But here's the truth: vulnerability isn't a sign of weakness. In fact, letting go is one of the most courageous acts of vulnerability we can undertake. When we release someone from our grasp, we're admitting something profound: that we cannot control everything. This lack of control is unsettling. It leaves us exposed, raw, and often filled with questions. What if I never find someone like them again? What if I regret this? What if I'm not strong enough to be on my own? These questions are natural, but they stem from a place of fear rather than truth. Vulnerability in this context is choosing to trust ourselves despite the fear. It's a decision to let go of what no longer aligns with our well-being and to believe in our capacity to heal, grow, and thrive. Letting go often brings with it a wave of grief. We mourn not only the person or relationship, but also the dreams and expectations tied to them. This grief can make us second-guess our decisions, making us wonder if we should have held on a little longer or tried a little harder. But what we must remember is that vulnerability isn't about avoiding pain, it's about facing it with grace. It's acknowledging the hurt and allowing it to teach us something about ourselves, our resilience, our values, and what we truly need to feel whole. In many ways, holding on is easier. It requires less introspection and fewer difficult conversations with ourselves. But holding on to something or someone that no longer fits in our lives can be an act of self-betrayal. When we cling to what's familiar out of fear, we deny ourselves the opportunity to experience something better, something that aligns more deeply with our values and our authentic selves. Letting go is an act of faith, not just in the world, but in ourselves. It's saying, I trust myself enough to navigate this loss and come out stronger. We often think of vulnerability as a soft, fragile thing. But in truth, it's one of the strongest forces within us. Vulnerability is what drives connection, intimacy, and meaningful experiences. And when we let go, we're not turning away from these things, we're making room for them to show up in new and unexpected ways. Letting someone go doesn't mean we stop caring or that the relationship didn't matter. It means we're honoring what the relationship was while also acknowledging that it's no longer what we need. That takes immense strength and self-awareness. There's also a profound kind of love in letting go, both for the other person and for ourselves. It's recognizing that holding on when something isn't working serves neither party. By releasing them, we're giving them the freedom to find what they need, while also reclaiming our own path. Vulnerability teaches us that love isn't about possession, it's about allowing ourselves and others to grow, even if that growth happens apart. Finally, letting go is not a one-time decision, it's a process. It's waking up every day and choosing not to dwell on what was or what could have been. It's allowing ourselves to feel the loss without being consumed by it. And it's showing up for ourselves in a way that says, I am enough, even without them. Vulnerability is the bridge between letting go and moving forward. It's the uncomfortable but necessary step toward a life that is fuller, freer, and more authentic. Self-worth is the foundation upon which all healthy relationships and fulfilling experiences are built. Yet so many of us find ourselves compromising this vital sense of value for the sake of others, whether it's to maintain a relationship, avoid conflict, or meet someone else's expectations. The truth is, your self-worth is not something to be bargained with, adjusted, or diminished to fit into someone else's narrative. It's non-negotiable, and understanding this is one of the most empowering realizations you can have. At its core, self-worth is the recognition of your inherent value as a human being. It's not tied to your achievements, your appearance, or the roles you play in others' lives. You are worthy simply because you exist. However, society often sends us messages that our worth is conditional based on how much we give, how well we perform, or how liked we are by others. These narratives can cause us to compromise our needs, shrink ourselves, or stay in situations that erode our sense of self. But no relationship, job, or external validation is worth sacrificing the belief that you are enough. When you love yourself enough to recognize that your self-worth is non-negotiable, you stop settling for less than you deserve. This doesn't mean you think you're better than others or that you refuse to compromise in healthy ways. It means you understand that compromising your dignity, your peace, and your values for the sake of others is never a fair trade. Relationships should be rooted in mutual respect and care, not in one person constantly giving while the other takes. When you prioritize your self-worth, you set boundaries that reflect your values and protect your emotional well-being. Setting boundaries is a powerful act of self-worth, but it's also incredibly difficult. For many, the fear of rejection or loneliness can make it tempting to tolerate behavior that chips away at their sense of self. They might think, if I let this slide, maybe they'll love me more, or if I don't make a fuss, they won't leave. But every time you allow someone to treat you in a way that undermines your worth, you send a message to yourself that you're not important enough to stand up for. Over time, this can lead to resentment, low self-esteem, and a sense of being lost in your own life. Choosing to uphold your self-worth often means letting go of people or situations that don't honor it. This can be heartbreaking because it requires you to confront the reality that not everyone will value you in the way you deserve. But letting go isn't about punishing others, it's about choosing yourself. It's about saying, I respect myself too much to stay in a place where I'm not valued. This act of self-love not only protects you, but also sets a standard for how others should treat you in the future. The journey to embracing your self-worth is deeply personal and often involves unlearning years of conditioning. It requires you to challenge the belief that your value is tied to your ability to please others or meet external standards. It means getting comfortable with being misunderstood or disliked by people who don't align with your boundaries. And it involves cultivating a relationship with yourself that is rooted in kindness, respect, and authenticity. When you recognize your worth, you stop seeking validation from external sources and start creating a life that reflects your values. You begin to surround yourself with people who uplift and respect you rather than those who drain or diminish you. You become more discerning about how you spend your time, energy, and love because you understand that these are precious resources. And most importantly, you show yourself the same care and compassion that you so readily give to others. Self-worth is non-negotiable because it's the foundation of everything else in your life. It's what allows you to build healthy relationships, pursue meaningful goals, and navigate challenges with resilience. When you hold on to your self-worth, you're not just protecting yourself, you're affirming to the world and to yourself that you are deserving of love, respect, and joy. And that affirmation is the most powerful gift you can give yourself. Letting go is often portrayed as an act of loss, but in truth, it's an act of creation. When we release something or someone that no longer serves us, we're not just saying goodbye, we're opening the door for growth, healing, and new opportunities. Letting go is not about forgetting or dismissing what was, it's about making space for what could be. It's about clearing the clutter of what weighs us down so we can embrace what lifts us up. Growth begins when we recognize that holding on can sometimes be more harmful than letting go. We cling to people, relationships, or situations out of habit, fear, or attachment to the past. We tell ourselves stories to justify staying. What if things get better? What if I'll never find something this good again? What if I regret leaving? These questions often stem from a fear of change and uncertainty. But growth rarely happens in the safety of the known. It requires stepping into discomfort, trusting that what lies ahead holds the potential for transformation. When we hold on too tightly to what's familiar, we stifle our ability to evolve. We become stuck in patterns that no longer align with who we're becoming. Letting go, however, creates a shift. It disrupts the status quo and forces us to confront the possibilities we've been avoiding. This space, while initially uncomfortable, is fertile ground for self-discovery. It's where we learn to trust ourselves, rebuild our confidence, and reconnect with our inner desires. Letting go doesn't mean the past didn't matter. The relationships, experiences, or chapters we leave behind played a role in shaping who we are. They taught us lessons, brought us joy, and sometimes caused us pain. But holding on out of loyalty to what once was can prevent us from embracing what is yet to come. Letting go allows us to honor the past without being bound by it. It's an act of gratitude and release, a way to acknowledge the importance of what was while making room for what will be. In the space that letting go creates, we often find clarity. Without the noise of what no longer serves us, we can finally hear our own voice. We can ask ourselves the tough questions: what do I want for my life? What kind of relationships nurture me? What am I ready to invite in? Now that I've let this go, these questions help us align with our values and priorities, guiding us toward a life that feels authentic and fulfilling. Letting go also teaches us resilience. It shows us that we can survive and even thrive after loss. The process of releasing something important can feel like breaking, but it's in the breaking that we find our strength. Each time we let go, we prove to ourselves that we are capable of moving forward, no matter how difficult the circumstances. This resilience becomes a foundation for future growth, giving us the courage to embrace change with an open heart. Another profound aspect of letting go is the way it invites new connections and experiences into our lives. When we cling to something that no longer fits, we block the flow of what's meant for us. By releasing it, we create space for relationships, opportunities, and experiences that align with who we are becoming. Letting go isn't just about what we leave behind, it's about what we make room for. Finally, letting go is a form of self-love. It's an acknowledgement that we deserve to live fully, not weighed down by the burdens of the past. It's choosing to prioritize our own well-being, growth, and happiness over the comfort of familiarity. It's saying, I trust myself enough to move forward, even if it's hard. In the end, letting go is less about loss and more about liberation. It's about freeing ourselves from what no longer fits so we can grow into the fullest, most authentic versions of ourselves. It's an act of courage, a leap of faith, and a declaration that we are ready to embrace all that life has to offer. When we let go, we don't just grow, we thrive. Missing someone can be one of the most profound emotions we experience. It tugs at our hearts and minds, filling us with memories and feelings that seem to defy time. Often, this longing feels like a signal, a call to return to what once was. But missing someone is not necessarily a directive to rekindle the past. Instead, it's a reminder of the connection you shared, the love or bond that existed, and the lessons that came with it. It's a marker of something meaningful, not always an invitation to reopen a closed chapter. When we miss someone, it's because they mattered. They left an imprint on our hearts, and their absence feels like a void. But this ache doesn't always mean that the relationship is meant to continue. Sometimes missing someone is simply a reflection of the depth of the connection you shared. It's a testament to the impact they had on your life, a reminder of joy, growth, or even challenges that helped shape who you are today. The act of missing doesn't mean you need to go back, it means you need to honor what was. The feeling of missing someone often arises from our desire for comfort and familiarity. Our brains are wired to seek safety in the known. And the memory of someone who once brought us joy or security can feel like a warm embrace in a moment of uncertainty. But just because something felt good in the past doesn't mean it aligns with who you are now. People grow and change, and relationships that once fit perfectly may no longer serve us in the same way. Missing someone might simply be your heart acknowledging what was without the expectation that it must be recreated. It's important to recognize that missing someone is often tied to nostalgia. Our minds have a way of softening the edges of the past, making us remember the highlights and gloss over the challenges. This selective memory can trick us into believing that returning to the person we miss will bring back the happiness we associate with them. But in reality, relationships don't exist in a vacuum. The dynamics, circumstances, and versions of ourselves that created those memories are often no longer present. Missing them might not mean you want the person back. It might mean you miss who you were when you were with them or the way they made you feel at a specific point in time. Allowing yourself to miss someone without acting on it can be a powerful exercise in self-awareness. It's an opportunity to sit with your emotions and explore what they're telling you. Are you longing for connection? Are you grieving a chapter of your life that has closed, or are you seeking closure for unresolved feelings? These moments of introspection can help you better understand your needs and how to fulfill them in ways that honor your growth and self-respect. There's also an element of respect in allowing yourself and the other person to remain apart, even when you miss them. Letting them miss you too can be an act of love. It's an acknowledgement that space is sometimes necessary for healing and growth. By resisting the urge to reach out or return to the past, you're giving both of you the freedom to reflect, grow, and potentially find clarity about what the relationship meant and whether it should have a place in your future. Missing someone doesn't negate the reasons why the relationship changed or ended. It's possible to miss someone deeply while still recognizing that their presence in your life isn't aligned with your current path. This duality can be challenging to accept, but it's also a mark of emotional maturity. It's saying, I value what we shared, but I respect the distance that now exists. Ultimately, missing someone is a natural part of being human. It's a reminder of the beauty of connection, the vulnerability of loving and being loved, and the impermanence of life's relationships. But it's also a chance to practice letting go with grace, to honor the memory without clinging to it, to feel the ache without letting it dictate your actions, and to move forward with the understanding that some connections are meant to shape us without staying with us forever. In that way, missing someone becomes less about longing and more about gratitude, a quiet, heartfelt acknowledgement of what was, and an open-hearted acceptance of what will be. Boundaries are often misunderstood. Many people see them as walls that push others away, a form of selfishness or rejection. But in truth, boundaries are the opposite. They're bridges that foster healthier, more respectful connections. Setting boundaries is an act of love, both for yourself and for the people in your life. It's about creating a space where mutual respect, understanding, and growth can thrive. Far from being a sign of disconnection, boundaries are one of the most profound ways to honor the relationships we value. When you set a boundary, you're defining your limits, what you're comfortable with, what you can tolerate, and what you need to feel safe and respected. This isn't about controlling someone else's behavior. It's about taking responsibility for your well-being. Boundaries are a way of saying, I care enough about myself and this relationship to make sure it's healthy. They're a declaration that your needs, emotions, and values matter and that you're willing to protect them even when it's uncomfortable. Setting boundaries can be challenging because it often requires vulnerability and courage. It means being honest about what you need and risking the possibility that others might not respond well. But this discomfort is a necessary part of building relationships that are authentic and sustainable. Without boundaries, relationships can become imbalanced, with one person overextending themselves while the other takes without realizing the harm they're causing. Boundaries prevent resentment from building and ensure that both people feel valued and respected. Boundaries are also an act of love for the other person because they provide clarity. When you set a boundary, you're helping others understand what you need to feel respected and how they can show up for you in a way that strengthens the relationship. It eliminates guesswork and confusion, allowing both parties to engage more intentionally. For example, telling a friend, I need some time to recharge before we talk, isn't rejecting them, it's giving them insight into how you operate and what you need to be fully present in the conversation. It's a way of preserving the relationship rather than letting it suffer from miscommunication or unmet needs. One of the most loving aspects of boundaries is that they promote growth for everyone involved. When you set a boundary, you're modeling self-respect and teaching others how to respect you. This can inspire them to reflect on their own needs and consider how they can set healthier boundaries in their lives. Boundaries create an environment where both people can grow individually and together, fostering deeper trust and understanding. It's important to remember that boundaries are not punishments. They're not about controlling others or pushing them away. Instead, they're about creating a framework where both people can thrive. For instance, if you set a boundary in a romantic relationship by saying, I need time to myself each week to focus on my hobbies, it's not because you don't care about your partner. It's because you know that nurturing your individual interests makes you a more fulfilled and present partner in the long run. This balance benefits both of you, enhancing the relationship rather than detracting from it. Setting boundaries also allows you to show up authentically. When you're constantly bending to accommodate others, you're not being true to yourself, and the relationship suffers as a result. Boundaries ensure that you're not sacrificing your identity or well-being for the sake of the connection. They allow you to be fully yourself while giving others the freedom to do the same. It's worth noting that respecting someone else's boundaries is just as important as setting your own. When someone communicates their limits to you, they're offering you the same gift of clarity and respect that you offer them. Honoring their boundaries shows that you value their needs and are willing to adapt to create a healthier dynamic. This mutual respect strengthens the relationship and builds trust, even when it requires compromise. In the end, boundaries are a powerful expression of love. They say, I care about this relationship enough to ensure it's built on a foundation of respect and mutual understanding. They protect your emotional health while encouraging growth and clarity for both parties. It's far from being barriers. Boundaries are pathways to deeper, more meaningful connections, ones where both people feel valued, respected, and free to be their truest selves. Your relationship with yourself is the one connection that will remain constant throughout your entire life. Friends may come and go, family dynamics can shift, and romantic partners might enter or leave your story, but you are always with yourself. This relationship is the foundation upon which all others are built, making it the most important one to nurture. How you treat, speak to, and care for yourself shapes not only your sense of self-worth, but also the quality of your relationships with others and your overall well-being. The way you relate to yourself reflects in everything you do. It's in the choices you make, the boundaries you set, and the opportunities you pursue or let slip away. If your inner dialogue is filled with criticism, doubt, or self-neglect, it creates a ripple effect that impacts your external world. Conversely, when you treat yourself with kindness, respect, and compassion, it strengthens your resilience and ability to navigate life's challenges. This self-relationship becomes a source of stability, comfort, and empowerment. Many of us spend years, even decades, prioritizing relationships with others over the one we have with ourselves. We pour energy into pleasing friends, supporting family, and maintaining romantic connections, often at the expense of our own needs. While it's natural to invest in the people we care about, neglecting ourselves in the process leads to burnout and a sense of disconnect. It's like trying to pour from an empty cup. You cannot give your best to others if you're not taking care of yourself first. Building a healthy relationship with yourself starts with self-awareness. This means taking the time to truly know who you are, your values, dreams, strengths, and vulnerabilities. It requires acknowledging not just the parts of yourself you're proud of, but also the areas where you struggle. Self-awareness isn't about judgment, it's about understanding. When you approach yourself with curiosity instead of criticism, you create a space for growth and acceptance. Self-compassion is another vital aspect of this relationship. Life is full of mistakes, setbacks, and moments of failure. but how you respond to those moments shapes your sense of self-worth. Being compassionate with yourself doesn't mean avoiding accountability. It means recognizing that you are human and worthy of kindness, even when you fall short. Speaking to yourself as you would a close friend can transform the way you experience challenges and setbacks, allowing you to learn and grow without the weight of unnecessary guilt or shame. Part of cultivating a strong relationship with yourself is learning to enjoy your own company. This doesn't mean isolating yourself, but rather finding joy in spending time alone. Solitude can be a powerful tool for self-reflection and creativity. It allows you to connect with your inner world without the distractions of others' expectations or judgments. Whether it's taking yourself on a walk, journaling, or exploring a hobby, these moments of connection with yourself deepen your sense of fulfillment and independence. Your relationship with yourself also sets the tone for how others treat you. When you value yourself, you naturally set boundaries that protect your well-being. You're less likely to tolerate disrespect or neglect in relationships because you recognize your inherent worth. This doesn't mean you demand perfection from others, but it does mean you create space for mutual respect and care. People are drawn to those who carry themselves with self-respect because it signals emotional strength and confidence. Prioritizing yourself is not selfish, it's essential. Just as you would invest time and energy into nurturing a close relationship with someone you love, you must do the same for yourself. This includes practicing self-care, pursuing your passions, and advocating for your needs. It's about creating a life that reflects your values and aspirations, rather than living solely to meet others' expectations. Over time, the benefits of a strong self-relationship become evident. You feel more grounded, resilient, and at peace with who you are. You're better equipped to handle life's uncertainties because you trust yourself to navigate them. And most importantly, you become a source of love and support for yourself, which lessens the need to seek constant validation from others. Ultimately, your relationship with yourself is the foundation of your happiness. It's the lens through which you view the world and the anchor that keeps you steady through life's highs and lows. By prioritizing and nurturing this relationship, you build a life that is authentic, fulfilling, and deeply aligned with who you are. When you love and respect yourself, it enriches not only your own experience, but also every connection you have with others.